of how do you step in front of developers in a developer-friendly way so that you have visibility and then remediative controls on the crazy sprawl that's accelerating at an accelerating rate of workloads across your very convoluted regions and multi-cloud landscapes. If you cannot understand it, and when you see bad behavior, take preventative action, you and the whole company are in really bad shape.
Welcome to another episode of Business Disruption in Tech. I'm your host, Howard Holton, and I'm really excited because I've got my friend Doug here with me from Aviatrix. How's it going, Doug?
Good, Howard. Nice to be here.
Yeah. So we are once again at, I don't know, what is this? Like Amazon holiday vacation? Is that what this is? Doesn't feel like a vacation, but you know.
I was telling somebody my first reInvent was 2014, and there were less than 7,000 people.
Yeah.
And now...
Well, it was all developer focused.
Yeah, it was all developers.
Right.
It was so cool. It was so pure. They didn't even have the executive track yet. It's super impressive how many people are here.
Have you heard any numbers? I think last year they hit 60,000. Have you heard anything?
I think it's about the same. I've heard like a consistent 60,000 the past 3 or 4 years. But
right, which is insane.
It's insane.
Right. For those who don't get it, like this is on the Strip in Vegas. It's at the Venetian Hotel, which has a huge mall attached to it. It's got to be 100 shops in the mall, right?
Yeah.
25, 35, 45 restaurants, some enormous number of restaurants. All of them are booked.
Yeah.
There's maybe 2 restaurants that aren't permanently booked by some vendor.
Right.
Right?
Over 7,200 rooms between the Palazzo and the Venetian, and all are booked.
And all are booked.
Every hotel around. And you are definitely being cattle prodded going anywhere.
Yeah.
There's like literally alleys like cattle that you're being pushed down to go to any event.
Every time I walk through, I expect to at any second hear the zit of the cattle prod, you know? That it's crazy. But what I hear more often is, no, you're going the wrong way. No, you're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
No.
Security over there. Security is pretty impressive.
That's true. So we were having a neat conversation before we started recording here about the kind of, we'll call it the alerting as a service, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Right? It seems like so often you walk up to a vendor's booth and what you see is, what do you do? Oh, well, we just really create alerts.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think if we really step back and start the conversation kind of first principles, I feel like the world in general and cyber as a small slice of that world has just lost the thread of anything foundational and first principle driven. Mm-hmm. I think the whole world is just so broken on distraction. Like, let me get some news, clickbait, or some social media anything so that we don't spend enough time to think about what's really the purpose of life. What am I supposed to be doing in life? And I think that I will use that because it goes back to cyber. And everyone's just so lazy in their thinking. I mean, Matt's walking around the AWS reInvent floor is no different than RSA or Black Hat, or it doesn't matter. Ignite as Ignite last week. I think people just lost what is the purpose of cyber? And what's the foundation of cyber? Like, how does cyber even come to be? Right? These simple questions. I think no one asks those, and so they do simple, easy stuff like, let me interrogate a bunch of stuff in the cloud or on-prem or with this vertical of things and flash a bunch of scroll bait again, and thinking that it's going to be it's going to be a success path. And it kind of is, because we're also addicted to scroll bait.
We're buying it, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're paying money and keeping these companies in business to create stuff that has no beginning, no end, no middle, and no purpose.
Yeah, you're not even sure what, I was at a demo in one booth, and the demo literally had over 18,000 critical, high, medium, and that alone was just my head exploded. It's like, so, literally, what do I do with this? When there's over 1,000 criticals, but I'm not even sure if it would have mattered in that mythical environment if I closed all the criticals.
Sure.
And that's just going back to first principles. What are we actually trying to do? What's important? Rather than just feeling good of checking all the boxes all day and keeping really, really busy. And what are we supposed to be doing with cyber? And I think the world needs some help there.
Well, fundamentally, if there's 18,000 criticals open, 18,000 alerts, doesn't matter.
Alerts
right?
or something.
And you can only get to 40 a day, because that's how many your team can handle in a day on average. then it would make zero difference whether you closed them all or left them all open.
Right.
You're never going to
You're never gonna get
clear
there.
18,000 events.
Right.
Also, there is a 0% chance that any of the 40 events you handle in any day are any of the 40 most important events that you should be handling that actually would make a material difference to your security posture. Right?
Yeah. I mean, somewhere in there are things that really matter.
Sure,
And that's the hard part.
But you're playing craps.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
At some point, you're picking a number, spinning the roulette wheel, dropping the ball, and hoping it lands on the number that you picked, because there's entirely too many alerts. There's no prioritization, and then tomorrow there's going to be another 1,000 alerts.
Right. That is the interesting part. It's a hamster wheel. It just feels like a hamster wheel. And the answer is, oh, don't worry, agentic and Gen AI, like, it's going to solve it all. It's like it's going to close them all. And I still start at the basic problem, which back like 3 steps, which is, do you need to? Like, what really is important? Anytime you touch a system, you got to be thoughtful. Like,
sure.
You don't want to destabilize. Everything has a potential destabilizing element to it. And when should you touch it? And what is going to be important? And again, right now you would never do that. There's so much hallucinations. There's so much craziness out there. I thought that we were 2 years away 2 years ago from no one needing to work anymore. We're at least 2 years away. Or at least every 2 years, hopefully it goes out another 2 years. Because I would not trust AI to literally do any task with unsupervised at this point. After playing with it for 3 years, almost any task. On its own, with no corrections
Sure.
and no checks.
There's very, very little that you can actually enable AI to do with no corrections and no checks. And the guardrails that you really need to put in place to ensure that even that little bit can happen is a lot.
It's a lot.
Right.
And it
only lasts for the one model. As soon
Yes.
as they update the model,
Yes.
you have to go back through and check everything all over again.
Right.
Right.
And I am a super fan. I am a super user. Like, it literally blows my mind every week. Gemini 3 hit, and I thought it was incredible. And then the week later, Cloud 4 or 5 hits, and my mind explodes. Like, every week, my mind explodes. But like, I wouldn't literally trust it to just a simple request, like, help me with this blog I'm trying to create. Like, I don't think I've once in 3 years taken the exact output and just said, publish this. If I did, I was in a super hurry and I was lazy and I didn't care about the quality, because it's not going to be awesome. And that is what they're actually built to do. But anyway, so let's just pretend that AI can resolve them all. But I'm way back on, like, which ones do you actually need to have to resolve?
Well, that's the problem, right? Like, let's assume AI could resolve all the criticals. First, never going to happen, right? The reason we haven't resolved criticals anyhow is the quantity of politics and unknowns combined together to create this mire of garbage.
Right.
So if I've got, let's say there's 18,000 tickets, let's say there's just 1,000 criticals, because that's probably reasonable, right?
Yeah.
5% or 6%.
Right.
Is there any possible way I could actually get the clearance to close those 1,000 criticals, to patch, address, reboot, change, reconfigure, whatever, to close those 1,000 criticals? Hell no.
Right. It'd be difficult.
Right? It's not it's at some point it is absolutely, there are too many things there for me to do with the team that I have, but at some point the team that I have can't act roughshod across my organization. The goal is to keep the business moving, keep the business up, and allow us to do whatever the work is that we do.
Right.
And the second I try to do that, that's gone. So can I trust an AI to have that context?
Yeah. So if we go up to 10,000 foot level, like, what is that thing? Well, that thing is, let's work on prevention. Let's stop people, because why do you care that there's a potential SQL injection issue? Well, but if I close that, then that hopefully stops somebody from doing something bad.
Sure.
And again, like, it's not a bad thing to do. Like, we should work our best to create as many preventative measures as possible. But the way that the field is tilted today, you're never, ever, 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 no company anywhere in any sector is going to stop all bad things from happening.
For sure.
There's no consequences for a bad actor. Like, they're living in countries we can't even touch. So you for sure bad things are going to happen. That goes back to, like, how many of those are important to close. What's more important? Well, what's more important is detection and remediation. But that's
sure.
Bad things are going to happen for sure. So what kind of fine-grained detection, and then what kind of runtime controls do you have when bad things happen, because they're going to happen. And that's the fascinating part to me, is so much is because we're humans. So much is focused on, let me stop bad things from happening. And there's so little to the foundational piece of, okay, bad stuff happens. Now what are you going to do?
Sure. Well, and the bitch of it is the time delay.
Yes.
I've gone through a ransomware attack. I'm sure many of the people watching this have gone through a security incident, a ransomware attack, something. Right. The time delay is the thing that absolutely kills you in those events, right? If I could stop a ransomware attack in 15, 20 seconds, 15, 20 minutes, totally cool, right? 5 years ago, it was IBM did a big report, and they estimated that an attacker was in your network for a minimum of 90 days.
Minimum.
Before they executed.
Right. I think it's up to 9 months now, the latest report I saw.
Sure.
They're there.
I completely believe it, right?
Going back to, they're all there.
Right.
If there's 18,000 potential vulnerabilities, and most of the stuff in the cloud is IP addressable, bad guys are in your environment.
Sure.
Guaranteed. Like, there's no way they're not.
Sure. So what we really need to do is detect malice faster and remediate as fast as possible.
Yes.
Right. If we can shorten that piece of it, then the rest of it we can deal with over time. Right. The concern about 18,000 vulnerabilities is, oh my God, that's 18,000 doors in.
Right.
Not really,
potentially,
but you get the point. Right. And we already know we're bad at detection and response.
Right.
That
is the core problem.
Right.
Because that's where it's like, well, identity, it's so important. It's like, it is. I agree. But what about a totally verified, like clearance cleared, 20-year employee goes rogue one day? Like, how is identity as a prevention layer going to help that? Like, that's a legitimate person with legitimate credentials, legitimate history that just decides to do some bad things or accidentally does some bad things. The more important part is, what remediation do you have? And how quickly do you detect what is aberrant behavior, and how quickly can you detect, and what immediate remediation do you have to shut down that activity? And the world is just not that fun. Again, Wiz is a unbelievable company, and a Soften team, like, I know them well, they're brilliant, and what they've done is a huge service to the world. But it is overall scanning and visibility on what could go wrong.
Sure.
They deserve their $32 billion plus. Probably could, they waited longer, maybe it's going to be worth more. But there's the counterpunch to that, which is, thank you for the exposure. Thank you for helping me see where malice could occur. What do I do about it?
Right.
And it's crazy that counterpunch is not, the emphasis on that is just not where it should be, when I think that's where the foundation of cyber should sit.
So what can we actually do about it?
Well, from my perspective, we could debate this. There's only three. When I think about how did our industry grow up and how does it operate today, there's at the foundation, at the very, very three things happening simultaneously. You've got an actor consuming compute, talking to an actor consuming compute. And that just raw, simplistic terms. And I'll only start there because a runtime control is the ability to actually take measures to stop something from happening. So where does it matter? Well, the actor is one. Can I actually physically stop Howard? Shut down your access. The second is your computer, your device seems to be acting weird. Can I quarantine that device? And the third is the network, because Howard and your computer doing bad stuff without connecting to others is probably not that big of a deal. It has some consequences, but it's the
sure, but it's a limited blast radius.
It's a limited blast radius. The network is the explosive blast radius. So, for me, the fundamental controls are like what kind of hot, fine-grained visibility, anomaly detection, and then rapid remediation do you have around identity, and that's drifting into non-human identity and other areas. And the weird part that people keep forgetting is workloads have identity too. So I'll get there in a second. And then compute, and then the connections between them. And for me, that's like the first principles foundation is, what is your strategy there? And how pervasive is that strategy given your state that you're covering? If you can't answer those questions, and all the other interesting noise candy that you're trying to deal with is, again, it's don't not do it. Just prioritize. That's less priority than the foundational stuff.
Sure, but it's also kind of like, cleaning the floor when the house is on fire, right?
Yeah.
Don't run the vacuum when the house is on fire. Put the freaking fire out.
Put the fire out, which is what we're battling. Right? What I'm arguing is the foundation of the house, if you don't pay attention to those, is completely unstable. And the fires are caused in many cases by a shaky foundation.
Sure.
Because gas pipes are cracking and the countertop cracked and it caused some type of gas leak. So you got to do both. Put out that fire, but what is the first principle and where is it caused from? And I think it's the foundation. Like if you fix the foundation, a lot of cyber becomes easier to manage.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree, right? If we'd started with zero trust and followed zero trust, this stuff would be a whole lot easier.
Yes, for sure.
Right? The fact of the matter is, understand what you have, understand what you're doing, understand who can affect it, and understand the risk, and then work your way on mitigating that risk.
Yep.
Pick whatever the target is and whatever the order is that makes sense, logical sense for you within your maturity, capabilities, and budget, and start attacking those things that are the most costly, largest to you. Like maybe, I don't know, turn off SMB 1.0.
Yes.
Right. I was talking to somebody else who said that they still, when they run their scanning and investigative tools, discovery tools, they're still finding customers running SMB version 1.
Wow. Yep.
Right. I don't know if there's anything less secure than SMB version 1.
Yep.
But that's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad.
Right.
That's pretty bad. Yep.
So if you were sitting with a CISO, and you're like, okay, I know I'm going to open my mouth. I know I'm going to say some things. I really want us to be on the same page. I really wish they knew this before they came into the meeting. What is the thing you wish they knew before they came into the meeting? Knew about themselves, knew about the industry.
So I'll make the assumption that a CISO I'm talking to has got a relatively large and complex cloud estate.
Yeah.
I wish that they understood that zero trust is not just about users, but also about workloads.
Oh, yeah. I
mean, that is the mission that I'm on right now, because there's so much, again, appropriate rotation to zero trust user capability. But there's other elements in your estate and in cloud. What are all those rogue actors trying to actually do that you're trying to prevent from being rogue actors with your zero trust user access and identity management? Is they're trying to get to the gold. What is the gold? The gold is the workloads they're seeing in the cloud. What are the workloads? And that, again, is a dilemma for many CISOs, is it's a really complex answer.
Sure.
That workload is a combination of lifted and shifted, highly stateful VM-tethered apps. Okay, you can cover those with a IP address as identity and kind of traditional elements that you'd use to try and protect those, stateful firewalls, et cetera. But it also is a bunch of containerized apps that are probably being orchestrated with Kubernetes, much more difficult because those are largely ephemeral. But it also is a bunch of serverless functions because you're probably using Lambda or Cloud Run or functions. And it's also PaaS services you have no control over, and it's SaaS services. Those are all workloads, and it's API calls. Do you understand that estate is where I try and start. And then within that state, what is your pervasive workload visibility and workload control approach? Because that's where why do you care about endpoint acting weird? Why do you care about identity acting weird? Because they're trying to get there.
Right.
And that's the most overlooked area. Like that for me, that my shock and awe over the past 2.5 years is like, oh my gosh, like that is what we're trying to protect, and that is the least protected thing in most CISOs' cloud estates, for good reasons, because it happened so quickly. Like no one consulted the CISO when the board said move to the cloud, and no one consulted the CISO when the dev team is like, you know what? That I'm not going to do these monolithic apps. I'm going to modernize everything. I'm going to use a bunch of serverless functions. It happened so quickly, and the CISO is like, "Oh my God, what do I do? How do I get in the middle of all this?" So I have huge empathy for the complexity of the environment, but that doesn't shirk the accountability of protecting the environment.
Sure, it doesn't shirk the responsibility that you've been assigned, right? It doesn't shirk the purpose of the job.
Right.
At the end of the day, if you get hacked, if you're ransomware, if you're whatever, right, the board's not going to go, "I'm sorry we didn't tell you about this. It's all good."
Right.
Right?
I'm sorry those developers were so out of control.
Right.
We'll give you a hall pass.
We'll go talk to them.
Yeah.
It's no problem.
Yeah.
It's never going to happen.
No.
Instead, the response is, why did you let this happen? Why is this so bad? When are we going to be back up? Do you have any idea how much this is costing us?
Right.
Blah, 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 blah.
And sadly, in America, have you checked out your personal liability yet? And
Correct.
are you covered on the corporate D&O policy, which many of them aren't?
Correct.
Which is really bad. Because again, like CISOs out there, I've got so much empathy. And my CISO is a direct report because I believe it's so important. And, I ran Splunk for a while, and we've been trying to serve the CISO for a long time. So I've got a high appreciation for CISOs. But yeah, you can't, it is your accountability and responsibility. And the pressures are legitimate, which is the board and the CEO are telling the dev teams, go as fast as you possibly can. And their job is to crank out new capability and functions very quickly. And now it's like, go as fast as you can with AI. Well, what's AI? It's just thousands of more workloads. It's just, and they're all generally ephemeral. They're going to be sitting in containers or part of serverless functions. So it's just making the estate worse. And the CISO can't say, stop. You can't do your job unless you can assure me it's secure. So they're squeezed, but there are tools, and obviously I believe Aviatrix is a great solution. Otherwise, I wouldn't be on this platform. But honestly, for where I am right now in my evangelism, I don't even care if you know about Aviatrix or buy Aviatrix. Just know the problem of how do you step in front of developers in a developer-friendly way so that you have visibility and then remediative controls on the crazy sprawl that's accelerating at an accelerating rate of workloads across your very convoluted regions and multi-cloud landscapes. If you cannot understand it, and when you see bad behavior, take preventative action, you and the whole company are in really bad shape.
For sure. So how do you see this changing? We are at reInvent, so let's throw one of these in here. How do you see that changing with vibe coding? Sorry, that's just fun for me. I don't think I've got to say vibe coding much this week, so No. I think if I don't say it 5 times, I don't get invited back.
Absolutely. No one will watch your podcast.
It's true.
So going back to first principles, vibe coding is incredible. It's difficult for some of the things that we do within Aviatrix because we're so embedded in the packet manipulation world. And so there's elements you can vibe code, elements you can't. But the only way you get in front of all of this is there's got to be control points. You've got to have a very rigorous CI/CD process and software development lifecycle process. And as much as I hate buzzwords, and shift left has been such a buzzword for so long, but done properly, it's the only way to get in front of this. Is that I don't believe what I didn't like about shift left is the average developer is not going to climb the curve on being a security expert.
Really? That's odd. I never, right? I've tried to tell people over and over again, I pay my developers to move fast.
Yes.
Security is friction.
Yes.
It is in fact applying the brakes.
Yes.
You cannot expect someone who's paid to move fast to suddenly go, I'm fast, I'm slow, I'm fast, I'm slow, I'm fast, I'm slow, I'm fast, I'm slow, I'm fast, I'm slow. They're not going to do it.
Never gonna.
They're absolutely not going to do it. And if they don't see the immediate direct benefit to it, to them individually, they will discard that step so fast it's not even funny.
100%. So all the movements out there of, you know what? We don't need QA. We don't need UX. We don't need any type of IT ops, infrastructure optimization. We don't need security. We're going to let the developer do it all. It's like every one of those is a friction point for the developer, yet they're all critically important for the corporation.
Yes.
So how do you get that? You've got to shift everything left. Like, how do you make it a natural element of my landscape to bake security in? Just going back to our example, and that is absolutely possible. It means you've got to be a rigorous CI/CD shop. Ideally, everything is infrastructure as code. Ideally, you're standardizing Terraform across all your clouds. But if you are there and you bring the right tooling that conforms to that infrastructure as code landscape, then you can shift security left. The developer doesn't have to know. The way that the landscape gets spawned, every time you vibe code and then create a build, there are the security, the security scans in it, where it's going to land as far as the serverless function it's going to access. There's going to be, and with something like Aviatrix, there's going to be a capability to understand what that serverless function is, what appropriate behavior is. And again, IP addressing is not going to be a way to get that done. and how to shut it down if you start to see anomalous or rogue behavior. And that all is part of your day-to-day processes that no developer has to understand.
Sure. So let's get into that a little deeper. How specifically does Aviatrix help with these issues, right? How does it help you deal with the issue today and deal with the issue that you're about to, accelerate as you add in AI coding assistance and more AI tools?
So going back to what is those three foundational levers, and so we're 100% focused on how do you provide zero trust to workloads. And for us right now, what we cover ubiquitously is all traditional the VPC, VNet, VCN, the traditional private network constructs are in all the clouds. We work across Oracle, OCI, GCP, Azure, AWS, Alibaba, so a broad estate. So those were all natively covered with our original solution. We've added in Kubernetes support and all the derivatives that the clouds drive. And again, we're not trying to compete with the native Kubernetes tools out there like Cilium or Istio. Those can do a really nice job of networking and security inside the cluster. The problem is, unless you're a 100% Kubernetes shop, you're going to have clusters talking to non-clusters, pods talking to non-pods. And how do you actually provide
some user
visibility
traffic,
control
right?
over that?
Like you still have every entry point is never going to be a Kubernetes container, right? It's never going to be, So tomorrow we'll have a new thing, I guarantee.
Exactly. 100%.
Right. Tomorrow it'll be server. We have server plus. Tomorrow it will be server plus, or serverless to server plus. Tomorrow we're going to invent something new.
From what I can tell, Apache Ray and Fargate are getting a lot of traction, and those weren't around 2 years ago.
Right.
So that landscape always evolves. But so our focus is how do you provide zero trust to workloads? And because of where we came from as a company, we use the network as an inspection point and an enforcement point. And that is important because, again, if we just go to actors on compute, talking to actors on compute, everything eventually it devolves to some connectivity channel between between the different connection points. And if you're a fabric that is woven into every region, every cloud that an organization all the way to the edge, the organization uses, now you've got the non-agented pervasive capability for visibility and enforcement in case you see something go wrong.
So where does someone get started on this journey, right?
Yes.
Because obviously you're going to need to have an understanding of how all this operates. I don't mean the nuts and bolts. I mean, who owns what, where it's at, where it sits, ideally kind of where the big rocks are that you need to start protecting, right?
Yep.
Can't eat an elephant all at once. So Where does somebody start?
So we start at the people that are interested. There's 3 different camps, which makes this a complex conversation, which is part of the challenge I think we have at Aviatrix. The CISO and the cyber team should care a lot because they're the eventual accountable party, but they don't control the CI/CD pipeline and they don't control the network. So we generally, to make this work, need the CISO to be excited. It's like, I know, I'm trying to cover this with traditional firewalling and all these other tools, IAM, security groups, Cilium, like, oh my God, it's out of control. I have no visibility. I'm interested. Then we need to make sure that the cloud platform team, the SRA team, whoever is going to control that infrastructure as code, agrees that they're willing to support this initiative.
Sure.
And because we use the network as an enforcement point, it's usually very good to bring the network person in. We used to mandate that that you use us as the networking layer. But as we pivoted from multi-cloud cloud networking to multi-cloud workload protection, we are just introducing, along with our Lambda coverage within AWS, bump in the wire capabilities so that the security capability can inject itself into TGW as the routing framework within AWS landscape, since we're at reInvent. So where should they get started? We've got a Wiz-like scanning capability where we're not trying to show 1,800 things. We're just trying to show the toxic combinations. Again, Asaf and team are brilliant. What are all the workloads in your state? As long as you give us re-credentials, we can show for whatever thing you've given us access to, we can show the entire topology of the state, what communications are occurring with those in and out of each workload and between the workloads, and what should you care about? Like, what are production workloads? We do a really elegant job within a cloud environment of grabbing a bunch of the metadata and a lot of the API data from the clouds so that we can not be IP driven, we can be intent driven in our policy and declarative. So what should you focus? Like, where's the best place to start? Where are you most exposed? Where is your toxic combination? That usually turns out to be Kubernetes or serverless functions, just because of the manual effort to invoke security effectively there. And traditional firewalls can't cover them. And the cloud firewalls are not very good there yet either. And what we call island VPCs, the traditional dev spawn VPCs that rarely get taken back down, that are awesome for development teams. But all the default within most clouds is a direct internet connection.
Sure.
Hey, so how did cyber start? Like, what my CPO, when I were going back and forth, this, he goes, the way I view it is when you plug the first internet cable into a data center, that's when the real industry started. And before that, we had retinal scanning, like we had physical security.
Sure.
And maybe some floppy disk scanning, but as soon as you plug the internet into a data center, that's when people are like, holy cow, this thing that was not built, it was built for trusted communications that the world has got access to, has got access to my data center. And that is one of the uniquenesses to me of cloud, is like the default motion from so many of the cloud services is an internet connection, which makes sense because I'm developer first as AWS or Azure, and developers want speed of access. But that means that anyone that has an internet connection, 8 billion people or 7 billion people, can find that thing. You should probably put a little bit of egress security there. See what's going in and going out, and see if there's a command and control initiative going on. Even if it's a goddamn QA workload that no one touches or cares about, they can sit and going back to the 9 months and hunker down and start to run network scans. If no one's watching and they've got command and control, they got a lot of software downloaded there, as well as doing their crypto mining. Like, don't you want to shut that down? But anyway, it tends to be these island VPCs. It tends to be more ephemeral workloads that have been difficult to address in a traditional manner.
Sure. That's great. So how do people learn more? How do they get a hold of you?
Merritt at aviatrix.com. I'd be happy for a direct outreach, but aviatrix.ai, like we had to get with the wave. It used to be aviatrix.com, but we changed it to AI. And I've been toying forever, going back to AI, and you mentioned vibe coding. Like, what's your AI story? What's your AI story? And then I know I should be a better marketer because the core that I would come back to is, what is AI? Like, AI is a series, there's many different things you're going to have to worry about securing with an agentic AI or a series of enterprise resident LLMs and vector DBs. But at the end of the day, they're all workloads. And what we're going to focus on, our AI orientation, as we've moved to Kubernetes and serverless, and then Apache Ray and Fargate come out in February, is we're just going to make sure that entire estate is covered. So we at least took the first marketing thing to make it aviatrix.ai, but we're very relevant in an AI world on the area that we care about, which is how do you protect the workloads?
I love it. Well, thanks again. This has been another episode of Business Disruptions in Tech. I'm Howard Holton. Like, subscribe, comment, follow, and we'll see you on our next episode.